Hey, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Since I'm a History Channel, I just wanted to quickly go over why we celebrate Thanksgiving. It starts really in 1621 is when the first Thanksgiving feast happens. But there was a lot of lead up to that. New England was inhabited by many native groups, including the Wampanoag and the Pawtucket. The first English who settled permanently in New England are the Pilgrims in 1620. Everyone's heard about all that, of course. But, of course, they were not the first Europeans to be in America, and they weren't even the first English. And in 1607, the Jamestown colony being settled down in Virginia. That being said, the Pilgrims were actually kind of unique, right? The people who went to Jamestown were largely there for profit to try to sell and grow tobacco. The Pilgrims were actually a radical form of Puritan, a Protestant Calvinist group. They were upset with how the English church was developing. They didn't like that they were getting taxed, and they were going to restart, make a great civilization in the New World. By that point, actually, a lot of the natives had died, and that's because there was a massive epidemic that went through from English fishermen, because the English had actually had some contact up in that area before. Many of the local groups had died, including the Pawtucket, all except maybe one or two people. And one of those people was actually a guy named Squanto. So Squanto actually was a Native American who spoke English, and he had been taken as a slave before the Plymouth people even got there, and came back to find everyone he knew had died pretty much, and he was kind of on his own. They had landed in December 1620, and by February, they were all on the verge of death, essentially. They didn't think they were going to be able to make it another year. Half of them had already died, and so then what ends up happening is he really just shows them how to farm in a way where they're not going to all just suddenly die by that next winter. And in Thanksgiving, that is when they reaped that harvest that they had been taught to grow all year long, and that is the first Thanksgiving. That was also a time where they had peace with Native Americans. They were at peace with the Wampanoag people, who Squanto had kind of been a middleman between them for. A lot of people say, oh, Thanksgiving celebrates genocide or whatever, and that's not really what it celebrates. Obviously, the relationship eventually turned into that, but at this time, there was actually some peace, and it is one of the few moments in that kind of long relationship between natives and colonists where there was actually peace. And they all got together and had a big meal, and the Puritans actually saw this as like a divine thing from God, right? Again, they were super religious. They saw, well, the fact that everyone around here is dead shows that God was clearing the way for us, and that the fact that they had been able to survive that second year was essentially God's way of telling them that you're doing the right thing. So that is kind of why we celebrate Thanksgiving. It is kind of technically religious, even though no one really thinks of it that way. It was not the first time Americans came to America. It was not about genocide. It's none of that. It's kind of niche, actually, which makes it interesting why we celebrate it so much. But let me know what you think. Happy Thanksgiving. Have a great day.